Welcome to our second sheriff's candidate interview here tonight on our Meet the Candidates night on the Q96.5 FM, and I have Gary Moore with me. And Gary, welcome.
Hey Jim, thanks for having me.
Let's ask the first question. It's the same question I asked Tom the other day, Cohart, when he was in. Initially, we were scheduled to do a Meet the Candidates night. Okay, there were some things that happened in the background that caused this to change a little bit, and I guess I'm looking for your opinion on an interview like this one versus a Meet the Candidates night.
Well, to be honest with you, Jim, I'm very disappointed in my opponent. I thought it'd be great to have another debate between the two candidates, ask them the questions as the other debate did, and that way everybody has the same answer or the same question, and they give their own answers to it. Mm-hmm. And this here, the way we're doing it now is fine. It's more like an interview, but a debate, I think, really gets it out there to the people. People in Williams County deserve to know how we feel about the same issues.
Yep. And so today I'm going to try to ask you most of the same questions that I asked Tom the other day. How's that?
Okay, sir.
That good?
Yes.
All right. But let's go back in time just a little bit because one of the strengths that you have, and you've made the points to have, is that you really have what you consider to be more experience than Tom Cohart. Explain that to me.
Sir, I've been in law enforcement for 41 years. And what that means is I've been dealing with people's concerns and problems for a long time. I know how to handle them. I know how to investigate them. I know what we need to do to resolve them. I know how to handle crimes. I know how to handle photographs. I know how to handle accidents. I mean, this is all day-to-day things that people in the county are accustomed to. They're just expecting us to know that knowledge. My opponent, on the other hand, he's never been in law enforcement. He says he has a degree in law enforcement that he obtained a few months ago, but there's a big difference between a game warden and a law enforcement officer. And that's where my experience lies. I mean, I do not know how to handle a shooting of a deer or a trapping of a coon. I understand that. But that's where his expertise can be in that area. Mine is handling people's concerns with law enforcement issues.
Some folks that I've heard have asked the question, and I'll ask it as well. Obviously being a law enforcement agent in Blakesley, Ohio, is not quite like being the sheriff. I mean, how are you going to be able to transition from a small city atmosphere like that and into a county position where you have a number of other people you have to deal with?
Sir, when I was on the sheriff's department back in '79 when I started, I dealt with all these issues. I was promoted to sergeant. I was a sergeant for almost 3 years there before I left. I dealt with the issues. I dealt with the man. I dealt with the roster. I dealt with the scheduling. I was in charge for the last 3 years of the Williams County's fair board, of the security for the fair. I mean, I was the man that had to have the deputies there, the special deputies there, organize it. We handled all the complaints. I mean, at that time we had 25 special deputies, which we're down to 6 or 7 now. So, I mean, scheduling isn't an issue for me. Handling these guys isn't an issue for me. And when I was an intern sheriff for 13 weeks, I mean, it all came back. And I proved that I can handle it. It's not a big issue. And you're right, Blakesley is a small town. It's not like you're dealing with stuff, but I've been a state-certified private investigator for 24 years. So, I mean, that's where my experience continues on with. I mean, we've handled homicides, fatal accidents. I mean, I take affidavits from people because I'm a notary republic. I mean, it's certified, and so I mean, I'm considered an expert witness with certain courts throughout the area. It's not just Williams County. I've worked from Paulding County, Putnam County, Henry County, Fulton County. I've been all over. I mean, we handle cases from different attorneys, different law firms, and that's what keeps my experience up.
Now, I've heard several folks who have made comments to me that they think Gary Moore is a nice guy, okay, and may have a hard time being the boss at times, being that bad guy when he needs to be that bad guy. Any truth to that?
No, sir. You know what's funny? When I was on the sheriff's department the first time, they said that too when they promoted me to sergeant. They said, "Now you're going to be able to make these decisions," and I proved that I could. I mean, we had an excellent force back then, and decisions are different. You can be a nice guy and still be firm and be the boss. And you know what? It's not all about me, Jim, either. It's the people, the team that I put together around me that's going to help me with this. I mean, it's not just the sheriff. The team, if I have a good support team, which I already have in place once I take office, and show that, it's going to show that, yes, being a good guy is nice. That's what I should be, but I'm a fair person, and I'm honest. You can come to me anytime you want, and if I can't get you the answer, I'll research it and get you something, because that's what I do. Being a nice guy is an attribute to being a sheriff. I mean, you don't have to be a stout person, but working with people is my forte, and that's where I really shine.
Now, some would also say that when we had our situation here on your closing days, where there were weapons and also some other county-wide gear that was transferred over into Fort Wayne, that paperwork and having procedure and a policy and establishing policies and procedure might be something that Tom would be better at.
Sir, there's nothing that Tom's going to be better at than I am. I know that for a fact, because I've already dealt with this stuff. The procedure we had for the munitions going to Fort Wayne, that was all documented. The problem we had, we received all that munitions back after I left office. The problem we had is Tom did not, or his people did not, register that in. When it went out, it was documented and registered. When it came in, it was not. And that's the problem. And not only that, if you're going to be appointed to sheriff, run your department. Don't keep going up to the commissioners and asking for advice to do this, do that. It's your department. The people are appointing you to run the department, not appointing you to go to the sheriffs and be their pod to run the department. And you know what, Jim? I would do all that over again in a heartbeat if I was in it right now. That's just the right thing to do. Fort Wayne appreciated it. We got the letter from that. The police departments appreciated it. There's nothing I did wrong. Nothing was illegal. Everything was returned. So I would do it again without any reservation. So I will not apologize for that.
Let's flip-flop a little bit. Let's say that you were Tom Cohart, okay, and he was Gary Moore. So he was the intern sheriff, and he was the one that had this issue and problem. And now you come in, taking over the sheriff's department, and you notice that something's not quite right there. How do you handle something like that?
First thing I would do is go to the people that are in charge of it. I'd go to the officer that handles the armory and say, what is this about? That's what I would do. Find out what the situation is, and then talk to the supervisors that are already in place. That could have all been taken care of without a big hitch in the public's eye. I mean, it's just inexperience on the intern sheriff.
When you left the sheriff's office the very first time, okay, some think that you left not necessarily in the best of ways. Could you clarify that for us?
Absolutely, sir. When I left the sheriff's department back in '91, Al Ward was the sheriff. In fact, if you want to hit a little bit on that, I received a call from Al Ward today. He's going to put an issue out about this situation, just what we're talking about. I left there because I received a offer for a job at Laidlaw, which is the Hal Henry sold the landfill to them, and they wanted a PR person, so I took that. They offered me a substantial amount of money more than I was making after the 13 years I was at the sheriff's office. So I took that. Al had a party for me. He gave me the Top Gun Award for that year at my party, and I mean, it was great. I mean, Al was proud of me for moving on, and we didn't have any issues at all. And like I said, Al Ward contacted me this morning and heard this rumor, and he's going to address that on Facebook and with your radio station here within the next few hours.
Interesting. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the department that you took over on an intern basis.
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
When you walked in on that first day, what did you see that you liked that was happening there, and what did you see that you disliked that was happening there?
I had an open mind when I first went in there. I received a call at 4:30 at night, the night before I was intern sheriff, and at 7 o'clock is when I was told be at the courthouse to be sworn in the next morning. So I mean, it went really quick. Another thing, if I left the sheriff's office in bad standings back years ago, I wouldn't have been asked to fill in this vacancy for now. There was a lot of things I seen, but it wasn't about what I wanted to change or what I wanted to do. I wanted to get the feel of the guys in the department, and that's what I did. I sat down and met with every officer there that I could possibly meet with. Sometimes I met for 15 minutes, sometimes it was 45 minutes. I just took what they had to say, I made notes, which I still have from each officer, and I wanted to see what changes they wanted or what could make them be better and make our office better. And then I went out to all the chiefs of the police, because our county has been so divided in the last few years, and it's terrible. And I want to make amends for those fences for that. And that's why I want to meet with the people, and there's no doubt in my mind we already started to do that. So, I mean, I was really happy with the results that we had. Like I said, I had to deal with so much in the 13 weeks that I was there. I didn't make a lot of changes, but I wasn't there to make changes. I was there to be the intern sheriff until my time was up, and that's what I did.
Was there anything in that time, Gary, that you did see that stands out in your mind right now, that if you are elected sheriff will be changing when you take over office?
Yes, sir. The structure. I'm not satisfied with the structure that's at the sheriff's office now. Okay, I am going to make some major changes there, and it's going to be different than it was in the past. I'm going to revert back to the Denver Mock Dick Books types and the Al Word type administration. That's what I'm going to do, and it's going to make a big difference down the road for the communication with the officers, with communication with the other departments, and most importantly, the communication with the public. You know, we're not going to be so standoffish. We're going to be public oriented, and that's what the whole basis of my campaign is about.
I asked this question of Mr. Cohart the other day, and I'll ask it of you as well. Why did all these police chiefs around Williams County decide to come out and endorse you?
It's pretty simple. If you think about it, Jim, I am a certified law enforcement officer. I know how to deal with the public. I know how to deal with the issues, the office, and these other departments. I can bring unity together throughout this Williams County area. We have 74 police officers throughout Williams County, some part-time, some full-time. If we can unite everybody together, that's going to be a huge difference for our response times, our working together, our code ethics. I mean, it's going to be major, and it's going to be huge for all the departments. Even if you're in a town and you think, well, the sheriff's department has nothing to do with that, that's false. You know, we can work together with our resources and the town's resources. And if we can combine that all together, it's going to be huge. I mean, it's going to make things work so much easier, and we're just going to go forward with that.
You've told this story a number of times, but if somebody has not heard it to this point in time, Gary, tell me why, again, you didn't run in the primary and then you decided afterwards to try to do this on a write-in basis.
I was asked to run in the primary. In August of 19, I had a bad accident. I was in rehab for several months. I broke several bones. Through the grace of God, I was healed. And I was healed within 3 weeks prior to being asked to be the intern sheriff. So, I mean, that's how long the process was. I was going to run for sheriff. And there was no doubt in my mind that the primary wouldn't be like it would be been back then. But I had the strength of my family and the strength of God to get me through. My priorities changed from running for sheriff to healing myself and being back to a full person again. I couldn't hinder the county with my disabilities at that time, and I didn't know how far I was going to be recuperating from. But like I said before, through the grace of God, I completely healed, through the love of family, with all their healing powers, and we're back to normal, back 100%.
I've heard several people say it that maybe if somebody else would have won that primary rather than Tom, that maybe you wouldn't have run. Is there any truth to that?
If I would have run now, you mean,
Yeah,
sir?
run now. I mean, is it just because, say, Mr. Livengood would have won that primary? Okay, and I don't know any of you guys all that well, so but I do hear these questions, and I've heard several times they say, well, you know what? If it was somebody other than Cohart that would have been the sheriff right now, would Gary Moore have decided to go through all this?
Sir, when I was put in as intern sheriff, to me that was a message from up above. And I don't mean to talk religion with a lot of people, but I strongly believe that. I was meant to be in that position, and that's what really drove me. It doesn't matter who won the primary, who was going to be there or not. I had a place, and that's where I was going to be. I know that for a fact, and that's the reason I was put in that place at that time.
We have Gary Moore with us right now, and we're talking a little bit about the sheriff's race that's coming up here in Williams County. We need to step away for a minute, pay some bills. When we come back, I have plenty more questions to ask the potential Williams County Sheriff. You've got the Q96.5 FM. We're talking with potential Williams County Sheriff Gary Moore, and our Meet the Candidates night continues here on the Q96.5 FM. Let's talk a little bit about one of the changes that has been made to the Sheriff's Office, and that is coming up with the two new investigators that they have, okay? Do you like that idea? Is it something that will continue on with a Gary Moore Sheriff, or will there be some changes there?
If we have the manpower, Jim, I think that's great that we have detectives on our department. We used to have them, then when we lost our guys in 09, we had to make some changes. I think the detectives are a good addition to what we have, but to be honest with you, once I get in, I'm going to analyze the situation to see how much manpower we do have. I don't like the idea of taking road units and making them detectives and putting them in plain clothes and taking them off the road. Our biggest thing is we need to keep people on the road. The detectives are a great addition if we can justify that. But the thing is, we have guys there with 20 plus years experience. So they are just as qualified as the other gentlemen to go out and handle a felony case. I know there have been some talk about we put some guys in bad situations, a couple of rookies. We never put our rookies in bad situations. It just, if they're not trained, if they're not well equipped in how to know the case, that's why we have supervisors. That's why we have gentlemen there that have 20 plus years experience. We get them the help they need. But in all truth, if they have a felony case, I want them to tackle that. That's how we're going to learn. With the supervision and the guidance of a supervisor, that's how we learn. It's not that we're going to let them out to dry to hang. It's not fair to the people in the county. So what we're going to do is make sure they're educated and trained the right way. But it's their task to make the decisions.
Mm-hmm. There's a question out there right now about body cameras for our sheriff's deputies and our officers, police officers. I know Mr. Cohart's not a big proponent of body cameras, and I think in the last debate that you guys had, you seem to be a little more favorable to that. Can you explain that to me, or what your point is? Or
Absolutely, sir. When you have body cameras on and they're recording, everybody knows what's going on. Okay, there's no he said, she said type situation. A body camera can prove that our officer was completely right or if there was mistakes made. We can learn, even if our officers were wrong, we can learn from the body cameras. Okay, 90% of the time our guys are going to be correct with what they do, and we can support that with the footage from the body cameras. If there is a mistake and there's something happened that wasn't correctly done, then we go back and we educate our people. We can learn from the mistakes that were made. So I think body cameras are essential to law enforcement. I just don't know if the funding is there to make that happen. But yes, I'm a strong opponent or a strong believer in the body cameras.
I've heard quite a bit that those are expensive units.
Yes, sir, they are.
And so it might be a little difficult to at least go with all of them at the same time. Would you be a proponent of adding a camera as you go, one a year until you get as many as you want, or two a year, whatever you can afford?
Absolutely. I believe in the camera system. I think most of the major departments have them, and it's been good footage. I mean, you're not going to be 100% every time. Sometimes we're going to make mistakes. That's just what we are. We're human. But you know what? We can learn by our mistakes by going back through the footage to see what the body cameras showed us. But it's also going to help us 95% of the time because we are going to be right. This is how we handle the situation. Right here it is. Take it to court. That's fine. A lot of times that helps us. Just like the State Patrol has they put the car cameras in. Just like we have car cameras. You know, they do that for a reason. It's to show how this person acted and not saying, oh yeah, he didn't really trip or he didn't fall down. It's to show people. We can go with that and learn from that.
The current sheriff right now said that basically the biggest problem that we face as a sheriff's department right now is the drug problem.
We have a
in Williams
huge
County?
drug problem in Williams County. Yes, we do.
Tell me about that, and tell me about how Gary Moore goes about attacking that.
We go about tagging that because we are going to be committed with the man unit. I've been talking with the director of that, and we already have one agent from or one deputy from our office that's full-time in the man unit. You know, down the road, it wouldn't hurt to have another one, or at least somebody else from the county to be investigating that. As you've seen just recently, they made a major bust of several of these people. The problem with we have with the drug problem is it takes a lot of man hours, a lot of surveillance. It's not something you can go out and do every week. You know, these people are dedicated to tracking down the drugs, to figure out where they're coming from and going to the sources. And that's why the man unit is so essential to our office and to Williams County.
Yeah. At this point in time, the short time that you were in office in the interim, did you see those kind of problems with the man unit? Did you see those deficiencies between their ability to work together, or do they work together pretty well, do you think?
I think they work together really well. I just think as our office, we could give it more support.
Sure.
With more support from our office, I think they could do even better. But they do an outstanding job for what they have. They're limited to resources just like everybody else.
Resources are going to be a problem, okay? There's no doubt about that. The budgets are all tight. They got a little tighter this past year with all the COVID issues that we've had, okay? I know there was a big downsize now a number of years ago. It's been over 10 years now since we downsized the department. Would one of your goals be to maybe try to add some more people as we go to be able to make this happen? And would you be willing to go in and lobby the commissioners hard to try to make that happen?
I would be absolutely astounded to go in and talk to bring more people back on the sheriff's office. We could use it. We're still down 5 people that we had. We lost 4 people in '09 that are still off, and then we just recently, within the past year, lost a supervisor due to his resignation. So I mean, we're down 5 people, and we're down 1 office person. And I understand that, and if the monies aren't there, they're not. But we need to get quality deputies back on the road and doing our job.
Let's talk about the relationship between the sheriff and the county commissioners, because I lived through our last sheriff, Sheriff Towns. I've always liked Steve. I think he's a good fella. I had numerous conversations with him where he felt like he had a couple cases going on that he was jumping up and down and waving and yelling and doing everything he could, and he wasn't getting the response that he needed from the county commissioners or from the agency that was handling the case at that point in time. How does Gary Moore handle a situation that was as delicate as that one?
You know, that's a good question, Jim. Every situation's got to be dealt with in an individual way. The county commissioners have their job. They're in charge of the financing for most of the departments in the county, and also they're in charge of what they handle, deals with the county. The county commissioners do not run or operate the sheriff's office. That's the elected official who's the sheriff. That's his job to do that. What we need to do is say, here's where I'm at, here's what I need. I need your help to get this part. So that's where we have to work together. And if the county commissioners don't want to work with me or the sheriff on that situation, then maybe there's other ways we can go about this. But I know that some of the commissioners have been hard to deal with in the past, but you know what? I'm looking for the challenge. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. As long as my needs are what the concerns are of the county public or the public people, and if we can justify why I'm doing this, then I don't think it's going to be an issue.
You put up on Facebook and all kinds of social medias your agenda, your talking points right now. Go over those for me while we're talking here.
Child safety to me is huge. Sex trafficking throughout Williams County is major. I mean, you don't hear a lot about it, but we're 4th in the nation, the state of Ohio is. And we have some huge passage throughs that are going through this state, and that's why it's such a big problem. But I also want to address, I talked about getting a task force together for child legacy. And what that means, Jim, is like if you're being bullied in school, you know, talk with the resource officers, talk with the judges, the probation officers, talk with the health department, JFS. I mean, there's so many different groups I want to bring together so we can address this issue and not just have one group one individual department try to deal with that. It should be something we can all combat together. Because if we can start working on that early in their lifetime, then maybe we can make a difference down the road. You know, our DARE program is still in schools now, and it's very successful. And most schools have police officers in them now, which is also helpful. We need to talk with them guys and see what we can do to make things better. They're asking for the help. The students are asking for the help. So why don't we give it to them?
Yeah. As a sheriff, would Gary Moore be an active sheriff? Would you be out in a car at times, working the streets, like Sheriff Towns had to do at times?
Absolutely. That's my forte. I mean, I've been on the streets all my life, and I love it. And you know what I like about it the best is the interaction with the people. You know, that's what I like about it the best. It's not so much, you know, being behind your desk and doing the dictation stuff with that and that. You have people there for that. Like I said, Jim, the sheriff's office, I bring the people in as a sheriff. I surround myself with great people and let them make me look good. I make the final decisions, of course, when I have to, but my job is to interact with the people, find out what their concerns are about. Let the sheriff's office be run by the people I put in charge of that. That's one of my biggest goals. I mean, and I love being out in the public. I mean, like you said before, everybody thinks you're a nice guy. Well, you know what? I am a nice guy. I'm a Christian, and that's what I would believe in. So, I mean, that's what people want to hear. That's what people want to see, and that's what I'm about. I'm just genuine.
Gary, we're wrapping up the conversation right now. What have we missed at this point in time? What have we failed to? What have I failed to ask? Okay, or what have we failed to get across to the folks that are still listening to this?
Jim, I just think that the people have a choice in Williams County. They have a person that has the law enforcement experience. They have a person that has the supervisor experience. They have a person that's proven that he can adjust the budgets to what needs to be done. I mean, I have leadership roles. And my opponent, if you look at it and look deep enough, you'll see that he's never had anybody underneath him. No road guy, no subordinate, anything. He's always been on his own for the last 25 years. He doesn't handle a lot of the things that we handle day to day. It's a completely different ball game between an ODNR gentleman and a sheriff's deputy. And that's what I'm about. There's a huge difference. If you're going to be the top law enforcement officer in the county, you should be able to make your own decisions and not have to go to the commissioners and ask things. You should be able to make your own decisions on how you're going to handle things and just do it yourself. If you're going to be in that position, make a change.
Yeah. You got a kind of a tough battle to fight because your name's not on the ballot. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You have a number of Gary Moore signs out in the area. I think there's more Gary Moore signs than there are real estate signs in this county at this point in time. So it does look like the campaign's going pretty well. But I think anybody that understands any write-in candidate has an uphill battle to go through, and your voters are not only going to have to darken in the box, they're also going to have to write in your name.
Yes, sir, that is correct. And that's why we started a campaign so early. We knew it was going to be an uphill battle. And we kept hearing from the other side, we're not worried about this guy because he's just a write-in. It's only happened once in the state of Ohio out of 44 attempts that a write-in for a sheriff wins. So that's why I surrounded myself with strong campaign leaders that we have on our group. And I just think that with that, we're going to get the job done. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, I know it's an uphill battle. We are the underdogs, but I think people are really seeing the difference between the two candidates, and they're seeing what we can do for the county.
Gary Moore has been our guest. He is running for sheriff on the 3rd day of November. You get a chance to go out and cast your ballot if you have not already. If you want to vote for Gary, you have to write his name in and you have to fill in the box. And that way then you will get your vote cast for Gary Moore for sheriff. Gary, best of luck and thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
With that, that wraps up our coverage of the candidates tonight. We're back into Classic Hits here on the Q 96.5 FM.